Hey friends, Tashin here. There's a rant that I've gone on a couple of times recently, and that's a sign that I should be recording this rant and sharing it with more people, I think. And there's a lot of moving parts to this rant, so bear with me. I think the first thing to start with is that I've really put a lot of work in the last 6 years especially into seeing people and to learning to witness people and read them and understand where people are coming from and what they're like and what they care about and what they're feeling, to understand people as they see themselves, to read their body language, to imagine what it's like to be them, to develop theory of mind, all of that. And it's not that I'm amazing at it. I'm always working on it. I feel like I've gotten a lot better over these 6 years since I've been really focusing on it, and there's always more to do. And there are people who are way better at it than I am still. But I have put a lot of work into it. And every conversation I have with someone is an opportunity to get better at this. And every person is different. And there are commonalities between people. There's like patterns that I recognize, things that I've learned to witness, and everyone is just totally a universe unto themselves, and learning about what it's like to be that person and what they care about and what their history is and what they value and what they're feeling and what they dream of for themselves, what they're steering towards with their life. And I've really put a lot of work into being able to do that. And there's a similar skill that I've also cultivated, especially in the last 4 years of my pilgrimage, that it even took me a while to realize, oh, I'm doing this. But there's a similar thing at a higher scale, which is doing the same thing with cities and communities and even nations, of like, what's it like to be in this part of the world, and what are its strengths of this city, and what are the weaknesses of this city, and what are the things that they're really good at and the things that they seem to find difficult. What's alive here? What does it feel like to be in this place, this region of the world? How do I feel? What do other people experience? What are the commonalities? And cities and places and nations really do have kind of a personality. In the same way that people have a personality, there's idiosyncrasies and strengths and weaknesses. It's the same on the collective scale at higher scales. It's really the same skill, but in relation to a place or a region or a city rather than an individual person. And there's things that I really love about different places and things that I really appreciate. There's certain hubs that I recurringly go back to, that I return to on my pilgrimage. And New York certainly become a place like that, and Massachusetts and Vermont and North Carolina and California, the Bay Area, Europe, different places in Europe that I love and go back to. And as I go back to these cities, I understand more and more, oh, this is what this place is like, and this is what it's like to be here for me, and this is what kind of people tend to gravitate to this location, and this is what's alive there, and the kinds of capacities of humanity that are most vibrant there. And also what the weaknesses are, because if I'm in one place, I kind of miss things about other places, and it's like, oh, well, this is lovely, but then there's not so much of this, and there's a lot of this, but they're sort of lacking or having a hard time with this thing, in the same way that people are, right? Like, somebody can be really good at one thing and find something else incredibly difficult. And I've come to appreciate places of any scale on the same way. And at both levels, there's a skill of really seeing people as they are, really seeing places as they are, and loving them as they are, while also being honest of like the things that they're good at and the things that seem to be challenging for them or they're not so good at, and having discernment about that and making good choices about that and seeing what's resonant and what's alive, and also what's not working for them, what's not working for an individual, what's not working for a place. And within that, something that I've found so useful on a personal level is, and there's a few ways to talk about this, but one would be the triune brain model of really as a phenomenological view rather than an ontological claim. Some people get caught up on this of like, oh, whether this is a truth claim or a scientific fact. And it's like, well, I've found it useful phenomenologically as a way of orienting towards my own subjective experience of my body and my mind. And so this is the claim that we have a gut, a heart, and a head. And that those are different ways of being or different modes of being, and you can learn to be attuned to them. And part of this view is that contemporaneously, a lot of people are stuck in their head, but it's also possible to come from the heart and to come from the gut, and that those are different modes of being or thinking or relating. And at least in my view, a really full integrated human is someone who can access each of those modes of being and move fluidly between them and use the one that's appropriate in a given moment, and that there's kind of communication between these three modes of being. And that's been a really useful modality for me, or a way of seeing inside myself, and has helped me to develop my intuition and develop my connection to my emotions, to discerning my emotions and expressing my emotions and resolving my emotions, but also still drawing upon the head and my intellect and all the ideas I've been exposed to, and reasoning and planning and all of that. Biomotive, of course, has been incredibly valuable for me on a personal level for noticing emotions and discerning them, expressing them, resolving them, and kind of linking the head to the heart to the gut. And I love this mode of being where I have access to different capacities and I can move fluidly between them. Of course, there's always more work to do. I'm sure there's things I haven't seen yet, etc. But like, to the extent that I have seen in this direction and gone in this direction, cultivated these skills, my life has gone better. And I think this is actually a real source of my power, is that I have internal alignment between different aspects of myself, and the head, heart, and the gut, between intuition and emotion and reasoning, and those are all available to me, and I can move fluidly between them, at least to some degree. Again, not saying I'm perfect at it or that I've got it all figured out, but so that's on the individual scale, right? And something that I really learned, especially from my friend Sheik, is that the same kind of problems and opportunities and questions recur at different scales. And I think this is something Sheik is really good at thinking about, is there's people who like really look at a certain question or problem at a specific scale, like the society level scale or a local community scale, or just within a person of like an individual psychology. And I'm sure other people have had this insight as well, but I learned it really from Sheik, that the same problems and solutions recur at different scales. And almost once you solve it at, say, an individual level, then you can start to solve it in your local friend group and with another individual, or with small crews, or with your community. And then there's like the city or nation state, or the bioregion, or the planet. And then in his way of seeing, there's like the post-human, or I don't know, I would say the galaxy, or all beings, ultimately, all the way up to all beings. And so I feel passionate about sharing what's worked for me in my life for other people, for it to help them in their lives, and also for us to build culture and community and society around things that work really well, and to spread them. And from this perspective, connecting kind of the dots of seeing people individually and seeing places and nations, I have found it useful to see places from within this head, heart, gut model, this gut, heart, head model of seeing certain cities as like a gut type, or a heart type, or a head type. And I really realized this because last year I spent time in 3 cities in America that I feel like really exemplify these different aspects of being, but on the collective scale rather than the individual scale. So I was in the Bay last year in January and February especially. And then I spent a lot of the first half of the year in New York, and I came back to New York in the fall. And then I was in Asheville. I ended the year in Asheville. And I feel like the Bay Area is very much a head center of America right now, where that's where a lot of the intellectual life is happening, and that's where Silicon Valley is, and that's where AI is kind of happening, and the EA and rationalist movements are there, and there's always a lot of vibrant intellectual activity, and it's hopping. And in some ways, arguably, the Bay Area is the capital of the world right now, where it's like, that's where the technology center of the world is, and where so much that's going to be shaping our future is happening. And also, from another perspective, I feel like New York is really the capital of the world. And to me, New York, especially Brooklyn, really exemplifies the heart. And thumos is what I would say from the Greeks of spiritedness or honor or devotion. Or I feel like there's ambition in New York that is a different flavor than the ambition in the Bay. The ambition in the Bay to me feels very like heady, where it's like, let's figure out what we need to do. Let's figure out how we're going to save the world, how we're going to get from here to there. It's very means ends. It's very planning it out. And I know I don't tend to resonate with that as much. There's so much I love about the Bay, but that doesn't really hit me in the same way that the ambition of New York does. It comes from the heart, and people really feel desire there, and yearning and eros, and this desire to live in a better world and a better community that comes from a very embodied, heartful place, as far as I can tell. And there's art there, and music, and creativity, and play, and community, and all of these things, where there's also finance and different aspects of culture and society, but it really feels like it comes from the heart in a lot there, especially the friends that I'm connected to, the fractal community and all of that. Fractal in New York, they're very ambitious people. They're very heart-centered people, I would say, especially with respect to thumos or ambition. Maybe not so much like with emotion or emotional intelligence as such, although of course there are some very emotionally intelligent people there. All of this, these are just generalizations, right? Same at the people scale and at the place scale of, you're just making broad generalizations, the patterns that you see. And of course there'll be exceptions, and people have had different experiences, so on. But I'm just reporting what I've seen and of the people I'm connected to and the places that I've gone. And then Asheville, I think, is very much a gut place, especially the community that I'm connected to, the Moon Circle folks, a lot of whom, were at Maple, but also Asheville more broadly. How to put it? They're very slow and very grounded, very present, very attuned to themselves, very attuned to other people, very in sync with their own emotions, very aware of other people's emotions. They're interested in building community and playing and dancing and building families together and being in nature. And it's kind of a slow way of life, and things are quieter there, and there's no rush, and there's nowhere to go, and nothing to do, and nothing to accomplish. It's just the present moment. It's like, this is okay. Whatever's here right now, the good, the bad, the ugly, here we are, and accepting that as it is. And that means that on the one hand, there's not as much of that ambition or drive, and there's also not as much of a vibrant intellectual scene or community or and I'm sure there are people there who have those qualities and communities that have that within that place. But by and large, I would say, in this typology, it's like, well, Asheville is a gut place. New York's a heart place. The Bay Area is a head place. And each of those have trade-offs. It's like, yep, this thing is prominent and they're really good at that. And then they have this other thing that might be harder for them and not as prevalent there. And it's not that it's not there, it's just not as strong, it's not as preeminent. And a fun exercise to the reader is to look at the place that you are, whether it's in America or somewhere else, and say, if we just look at this way of seeing, is the place I live mostly a head place, a heart place, or a gut place? And in what respects? And what are our strengths and what are our weaknesses? What are we really good at? What's challenging for us? And from that perspective, okay, this is where I'm really trying to get. If we see individual cities as within this typology, or any other typology really of its strengths and weaknesses, what is the larger whole that's trying to emerge in culture that wants to arise? And I would love to see a lot of flow between the head of the Bay Area and the heart of Brooklyn and New York and the gut of Asheville, and between any of the head type cities around the world and any of the heart type cities around the world and any of the gut type cities around the world, where there's more people going from place to place. There's poor people making friends in different places. There's more culture that's being shared. And there's more communication between these regions and these centers, where it's like, hey, what's working for you? What are you really good at? How can we do more of that? how can we share what's working here so that you have more of that? And of course, this happens naturally. This just is what commerce is. This just is what society is. This just is what culture is. But I think this way of seeing helps frame what might be possible collectively for us in a way that could accelerate that or clarify that. Of like, there's a kind of phase shift that happens internally when you get alignment between your head and your heart and your gut, or between the chakras, or whatever model you want to look at, between parts of yourself, even just a parts work frame of like, oh, there's the part of me that loves adventure and the part of me that loves stability and comfort and just wants to make a nest. And if we can get access to these different parts and then start to harmonize them through IFS or parts work or any kind of modality like that, then we have a phase shift individually where there's so much more internal harmony and alignment, and you come into being as a whole person. I think that kind of thing is really possible on the collective scale as well, where new cultures can arise and there can be more commerce and more exchange of information. And yeah, we can have a high trust society again, where there's more mutual understanding and where there's awareness of how to work through conflicts. And I think a lot of the cultural affordances that we've received are kind of out of date and not working for people. And there's different careabouts in different places about what that could look like, what a new culture could look like. But I want to see us have that kind of a phase shift in America, in countries around the world, and on the global level as well, where we're able to have coordination and governance and community and society and culture at the global scale. And I think that recognizing these qualities and these strengths and weaknesses of different places is a key part of learning to coordinate in a global way. And I'd like to see more of that happening. And I feel like I'm living that and trying to help people connect the dots. And the Service Guild is helping with that, trying to connect the dots around the world. The Service Guild is a global first crew organization. We're literally global and around the world. And I feel like that's a big part of that. Having people who are really rooted in their local community in a specific place, but are connected to people around the world and part of a larger conversation. And something that's important to me with this is the goal isn't just to merge. It's not for the head to become the heart, or the heart to become the gut, or the gut to become the head. It's to have conversation and fluid coordination between these different parts of ourselves at different scales. And the goal isn't for Asheville to become New York, or New York to become the Bay Area, or Bay Area to become Asheville. It's like, can we have more exchange, coordination, conversation, commerce, sharing between these regions and these places and these cities and these nations? I think that could be really accelerating for us and for the world at really every scale. And I'd love to see more of that happen. I'm curious what this brings up for you. And if you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. In the meantime, sending you love.